Welcome to the fourth episode of the Triathlete Hour. Today, we're talking to Tim O'Donnell, last year's runner-up at Kona, about what it's like to go viral and get called an idiot by Jimmy Fallon, and how he's coping with the current uncertainty. Plus, he tells us the story of when he first felt like he made it. But first, I'm chatting with former Ironman champ Sara Gross about the state of the Tri-World season races. How are you, Sara?
I'm great. I feel like a bit of an imposter, though.
Really?
Talking about triathlon-y stuff, because I don't normally do it.
You don't know? Oh, you don't normally do triathlon? You don't normally talk about triathlon?
I talk about triathlon all the time, but I don't swim or bike anymore. So
nobody swims anymore, so it doesn't matter. I also feel like I just called you a former Ironman champ, but like isn't that like a president, like a title you keep forever?
Oh,
it's never former.
Yeah, I keep that forever, Kelly. Yeah. The trophy's beside my bed, especially when you work for 10 years to win that thing. I mean, that I look at that thing every day. I finally won Ironman.
You're like, and I will never let anyone forget it. So
that's right. So thank you for the wonderful intro. Yeah.
If you don't know, Sara and I used to do a podcast together called If We Were Riding, about things that you would talk about if you were allowed to ride with people now on long rides. And you went and replaced me with Sarah True, which I feel like very replaced by.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's the whole thing is the whole vibe changed when Sarah True came on the show. So, you and I had our thing. We did 100 amazing episodes over 2 years. And obviously you're totally irreplaceable.
Obviously.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then Sarah joined me for If We Were Riding, and it's just a slightly different vibe. It's still equally as casual, like as If We Were Riding. But like with different friends, you talk about different stuff. So Sarah and I have our thing. You and I had our thing. So it's all good.
It's all good, yeah. And so now people are getting they're getting the full If We Were Riding kind of right here, right now. We're doing our own little thing.
Probably with less cursing, though, I would guess.
Yeah, I don't think I'm allowed to swear as much on Triathlete.
Okay, it's fair.
But Sara, and I've, if you don't know, and I make fun of Sara for this all the time, is Canadian.
Sorry about that.
Sorry. So you're up in Victoria. And so I'm wondering, I want you to tell me how Canada and how Victoria are handling the lockdown, corona, quarantine situation. Are you guys on pretty strict lockdown? Is it chaos? What's it like?
Yeah, I feel this has actually been one moment in my life where I feel very, very lucky to be Canadian. Or especially now during this time. I mean, there's been great times to be an American throughout history. But perhaps this is one time that's better to be Canadian. So I don't know, like every morning our prime minister does a press conference and brings all the newest information, right? Which creates this, what would you say, a vibe is too light a term. Like it creates an environment where we as Canadians are getting good information from the top scientists who know what they're talking about and the doctors straight to us, about the virus, about what to do next in terms of staying home and all of that. So right now we're effectively being asked to stay home and to go out as little as possible. And all non-essential services are shut down, like all the shops are closed and stuff across the country. And then there are a couple places where they've had to start handing out fines to people, like in big cities. But I get the impression that's kind of few and far between. There are incidents of people behaving badly when they should be staying home to save lives. But for the most part, I feel like Canadians are getting it, partially because we trust that information system that's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a whole nother non-triathlon podcast discussion about how we trust information and how it is disseminated in this age. But what I was wondering was if triathletes were taking it seriously in Canada. Like, are triathletes being good and staying home? Or are you still seeing Canadian triathletes on group rides, trying to go to the pool, etc.?
I have not. Well, the one thing about not going out is that you don't witness things firsthand. But I don't know. Maybe they are. No, I mean, I don't see in the times when I have it. Like yesterday, for example, it was Sunday. It was a gorgeous day here, and I saw a lot of people on bikes, but I saw no people group ride. So I had to go and do a couple errands yesterday. So I did actually leave the house and witness some cyclists keeping their distance from each other. I run a lot in the trails. And so I've really noticed the last sort of 2 weeks, like the first week folks were maybe not as cautious, but now everything you can touch has like caution tape all around it. And people don't sit on benches. You can't, you're not.
Oh, people don't sit on benches.
They
Interesting.
Everything's closed. All the, like the, what do you call those things? Picnic tables. Those things you eat lunch on in parks. Yeah, they're closed. There's also, the city has people out there just making sure people are keeping their distance on the beach. So I like, for the most part, people are being super respectful, from what I have observed. I have heard stories, of folks not being, especially people say going on runs with people who aren't in their isolation circle, and maybe getting too close. So that's
for
little
sure.
things that you hear. So I'm sure it happens.
Oh, for sure it happens. I mean, I don't think Canadians are like not people.
Yeah,
and it's definitely been happening.
We're amazing, but we're not perfect.
Yeah, I went for my like solo outdoor ride yesterday, which I've been doing like once a week, and there were some guys who were. I mean, I don't want to judge. Maybe they were in their isolation circle, but it seemed like they were just out with friends on rides, which I thought was super messed up. And I actually feel like I feel like I need to rant here for a second, Sarah.
Okay. Oh,
which I
love
used to do.
Rant. Yes.
I used to do a lot, and I've made it to, I don't know, month 3 of this new job without ranting about anything. But I have felt like triathletes in general are not taking this seriously enough. And now with the caveat that there are a ton who are taking it very seriously, who are following the rules. And with the caveat, of course, that like, there's tons we don't know about this. Science is changing constantly. Like we may end up, realizing we overreacted in some instances and didn't react enough in others. Like obviously we don't know what is going to happen, but I've been getting a lot of triathletes in the last like week or two saying, oh, this is ridiculous. This is like an overreaction. I'm not affected by this. I can just go about my regular life. That's not how like my situation is not like that. Which at this point, if you're saying you're unaffected, it's just because you're choosing not to acknowledge the effect your choices have on other people, right? Like that's the reality. Like you're not special. You're not unique. As far as I know, this virus, there aren't people who are immune to it in the world, right? It's not like you somehow are just like the one place that's going to be immune and super special and like not be affected, right? Like it's affecting people in New York, in China, in India, in Italy, in Spain, all the same. So like you're not somehow different.
Yes.
So to think that like you are is just absurd, is really entitled, right? To think that like you don't need to follow these rules is really entitled. And it also, the part that's like really crazy to me is like, we're triathletes. Aren't like a third of us doctors? Don't you talk to doctors? Like talk to and listen to the people working in emergency rooms in these hotspots about how overrun they are, about the, stretchers like backing up out the door, about the mobile morgue units in New York. Like New York is not distinctly different from San Francisco. I live in San Francisco. This could happen here. And so whether or not like I'm worried about getting sick, which I'm not that worried about me personally getting sick, I don't want to contribute to someone dying. I don't want to contribute to like my hospital, having a rate at which like they can't literally declare people dead quick enough, right? Like I don't want to be a part of that. So I'm going to follow the rules, right? Like I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. So that's what's been driving me a little nuts, is it feels like people aren't really listening, at least around here. I mean, not around here, like in California they are, but at least generally in our like triathlon community, it feels like a lot of people aren't listening, aren't paying attention, think somehow like they're healthy, they're special, they're, young, they don't need to follow the rules. And it's just like, you're not special. You're not different unless you're an epidemiologist or a public health official. Like, I don't care what your opinion is on Facebook. I don't want to hear it. Just follow the actual guidelines.
Yeah, I feel for people. I mean, so to start just where you backtrack halfway through your rant there, where if anyone who hasn't got the message yet, that it's not you that's avoiding getting sick by not going out, right?
Right.
It's sorry, I just said that out in a very Canadian way. It's like to save it's to save other people, right? It's to stop the spread. So that, I mean, I think most people understand that part.
For sure. At this point, one would hope.
Yeah, I feel for people. I think triathlon in general, and now you're going to get a bunch of angry mail from me.
I know. I was just like, oh man, people are like going to start firing up their keyboards right now.
Yeah, but I think that, triathlon draws in a lot of people who like the kind of like stringent lifestyle of, or who are those, I mean, we always say they're A-type. People are A-type. They like the achievement. They like getting up early and going to the pool. We like that kind of like that life that's very rigid of like, we're training twice a day, we're going to work.
I think a nice way to say that is structured and goal oriented.
Excellent. FYI. Yes, thank you. So we're structured and we're goal oriented. But I think what happens now is that we start to see for whom that part of it is part of their mental health. Would you say, like keeping them mentally healthy as well as physically healthy? And that's totally fine and okay for that too, because we all have crutches that we lean on for our mental health, just like our physical health. And crutches is even the wrong word. Like we all are getting through this world somehow together, right? But right now, if that's your crutch, if training for triathlon is the thing that keeps you going day to day, week to week, you might need to find something else. And I can see how that might be really, really hard for people, but facing that, because at least here in Canada, where we have actually started to flatten the curve a little bit, it means we're going to be inside for longer. And people are starting to accept that and see that like, we need to find a way to be normal like this. And not just be waiting for the next thing and not worried about when the races are going to start again. So I do feel for people, but folks need to find something else to focus on right now.
Yeah, because I feel like there's also been a slight shift in the last week or so, an increasing acknowledgement that races may not be starting again, like not for a while, not this summer, not soon. Quebec announced, no races, no mass events through the end of August. And I just been like, oh, maybe I'll do Mont Tremblant. I won't be doing Mont Tremblant, right? Like that's not happening because if there are no events at the end of August. And so, if there aren't going to be, and like, look, guys, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen. There could be races by August, September, October, but there might not be. And if there aren't, then like, what is your motivation? And I think for a lot of triathletes, obviously, they're going to train whether or not there are races. Like I'm certainly going to train whether or not there are races, but I might not train as much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the whole internal versus external motivation. Goal. What is this? A process-oriented versus outcome-oriented goals, Sarah?
Yeah. I mean, we found out really quickly at the beginning of April for whom that, like, getting that medal around their neck at the Boston Marathon was going to be really, really important, and for whom it was all about the process.
Yeah, I definitely am race oriented, and everyone keeps acting like that's a bad thing. Like, well, you need to be more process oriented. And I'm like, no, if there's not a race, I am not riding my trainer for 4 hours, guys. Right. Like, it's not happening.
Right. I guess, yeah, I have a bit of both, but yeah, I definitely like struggle without a goal or a reason. Like my reason has become more social in terms of exercise, but yeah, I would never ride my trainer for 4 hours without a goal. But I mean, I think also like changing those goals, like I can also shift those goals out of the athletic realm into like another realm, right? So that might be the way to go right now. Zoom goals.
Zwift goals. Like figure out how Zoom works. That should be my new goal. You're not going to get into virtual racing. I know last week we talked and you actually thought VR for the Ironman VR stood for virtual reality and required goggles.
Actually, Sara True and I had a conversation about it because her first reaction was to think that it meant virtual reality, which I actually didn't think of. But when she said it, I was like, yeah, of course, because that's what that means to like the rest of the world. So it didn't surprise me that her reaction was like, hey, do we have to buy goggles now too? But that would be way more fun. You have to buy
goggles. You have to buy a $1,000 trainer and goggles to do VR.
I mean, that's the barrier to entry is just as high as regular Ironman anyway. So there you go.
But have you like actually looked on it yet? Have you actually looked at it, tried it, gotten on it yet? I know you, we're both so bad. Neither of us really Zwift. We like don't even go there.
I know. Like, I know I understand. Like, I understand why riding a bike on a video game is really fun. Like, I get that in my head, but okay. It's not something that I do. Like, I just go outside and run in the trails. That's like my happy place right now. So.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I mean, a lot of people are talking about, virtual racing's the future right now because there might not be racing for a while. Then they're trying to get these pro racing up, and Zwift has their own series and Ironman has their own series, and Super League is competing on Zwift now. And there's all kinds of virtual racing. I think we're actually trying to put together like a guide to all the different virtual races out there. And so it's like, maybe that is the future for a little while, and I just need to get on board faster.
Yeah, and I think if you think about it, how many people were already using Zwift and Strava and things like that, and for motivation, like I'm thinking of the Strava segments, right? Like I've before
Oh
been in
yeah.
like Strava battles where I'm going like head to head with like 3 other women in my community who I like don't even know or only know of, and then we're like each taking our turn, like conquering a mountain, quote. Sorry, we don't have any big mountains here. A mountain in quotes, to see who can have the fastest time on Strava. So Queen of the Mountain matters. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sarah Piampiano was going after a bunch this past week, and I was like Instagram messaging with her yesterday about because whatever, we live around each other, and ours are very, very hard is the problem. There's all these Olympians that you have to like beat to get the QOM, and you're like, cool, great.
Yeah, until like the national cycling team started using. This is like back in the day before anyone used Strava. That's the only way I could win cycling things.
You know, it did occur to me last night, though, and this might be what I do. So you know how in races, your GPS is always slightly more than the actual race distance because of certification rules and tangents and all that stuff? So I might go, so maybe this is an opportunity to run an actual 13.1, go and plot it out. I'm going to plot out a loop around the neighborhood that's like about a mile. So I'll get my husband to like stand one spot in the loop. And I'll go and just run my own 13.1 and I'll get like a free extra 0.18 miles and I'll run my PR. I think that's my new my plan. Well, once I can run again, I like quarantine injured myself. So
wow, how do you quarantine injure yourself?
I actually think this is actually really, a lot of people are doing this. I would like everyone who has done this to message me because people are running more than they were before. They're not swimming, so they're not getting like the loosening up aspect. They're sitting a lot in like situations, working from home in situations they weren't before. So they're super tight. And then for me, the kicker was trainering a lot more than I usually do. Like I don't trainer. And trainering for me, I apparently move around on my bike a lot out in the road. And when you're on the trainer, you're very stuck. You're very stationary. So I ended up putting a lot of stress on like one side of my body because I was just like kept shifting that way. So everything was like just super primed and my hamstring just got I can't run. Hella jacked up.
Oh no.
I know, it's really bad.
I know what you mean because I'm doing right now, I do mostly lifting and running, right? So it's the same thing, but then I just sit in the same like 1,000 square feet of my condo for the rest of the time. So yeah, it's definitely like a primed area for over tightness and injury.
So once I'm unquarantine injured, I'm going to go run a half marathon PR around my neighborhood in loops, and it's going to be great.
Okay. Just make sure you cool down from that situation.
Right. And don't like talk to anyone and don't touch it. And I'm going to do it like when nobody's around and, maintain my distance and my immune health and all of that stuff. So exactly. Anyway, the future of triathlon is weird, Sarah. I don't really know what we're going to see here. And I know you and I have like been texting a lot about it. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I think we need to get uncomfortable with uncertainty right now. Anyone who's not uncomfortable or comfortable with uncertainty is going to be very uncomfortable for a while. So we just need to settle in a little here that we don't know and we don't actually know. It's possible the world could go back to exactly the same after this, and it's possible it could not, and we don't know.
Yeah, I'm increasingly coming around to I don't think it's going to go back to completely the same. But that's just me being like reading way too much New York Times. Not too much, let's be fair. I read an appropriate amount of New York Times. It's just a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. The world is a giant shrug emoji right now, which is my favorite emoji also right now.
Well, thanks for talking to me. And we're going to take a quick break, and then I will be chatting with Tim O'Donnell about not depressing topics. Tim will be much more fun. So stay tuned.
I love Tim. I'm so glad you had him on this week. Thanks, Kelly.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to cut in here to say thank you for listening to our first ever podcast, the Triathlete Hour. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, so that you won't miss any of the things we have planned or coming. All interviews, news, everything you want to know about triathlon. Now, let's get back to it. All right, well, welcome Tim O'Donnell, who's joining us today. And I keep feeling like I need to introduce the people, but then I'm like, if people are listening to a triathlon podcast and they don't know who Tim O'Donnell is, that's sort of weird. But Tim got second at Kona last year, I guess would be the short summary. Long time pro triathlete, won many, many things. And now, you've gone viral. What's it like to, be referenced on the Jimmy Fallon show?
Yeah, it's insane. All your achievements in sport mean nothing, but when you trip over the power cord in a virtual race, you become a viral hit. So I don't know. It's been fun. It's been a busy week, but Rinny and I have good attitudes, and we just thought it was a lot of fun. So
yeah, it's really funny. A lot of people sent me that Guardian article. We're like, "Oh, did you know triathlons are online now?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, well, we saw the summation of Ironman, all of Ironman's media last week, and I think 90% of the headlines had the word idiot in it. So I am an international idiot right now.
Does that actually, because you guys have gone like semi-viral before, I feel like, and does it actually help at all? Does it actually help your sponsors and your profile, or is it just kind of funny?
Yeah, no, I think we've gotten a lot of good feedback from partners. It's triathlon's not always something everybody's talking about. So to have it, any press is good press, right? So just getting it out there in the mass media, I think it's been a positive.
That's good. And you are going to do the virtual race this weekend, right?
I am. Yep.
I guess I should always keep feeling like I need to say when I record. So we're recording on the 10th, and this will air next week, so the virtual race will have been done by then. But are you a big virtual guy? Is this like your thing? Are you all into the Zwift and everything?
I actually don't do a lot of virtual training. I do a lot of indoor riding, but I usually have my specific workout that I do, and then I watch TV or put a movie on. But I actually do like some of the programs for when I have to do really hard intervals.
Okay.
I just think it's a nice distraction, and you feel like you just kind of push yourself a little bit more, and without thinking is hard. So during some intervals, I'll throw those on.
I'm actually a TV person too when I train her. So now I want to know, like, what is your go-to TV that you've been watching?
It varies. So Rinny and I have this, like, once Izzy came along, our TV consumption dropped dramatically. So we're always like, we always want to watch stuff together, but then we don't know what to watch on the trainer by yourself, or wait till Rinny comes in. But we love Curb Your Enthusiasm, so
right.
We've been watching the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I usually keep it light on the trainer. I don't get into anything too deep. There's a new show on HBO, Avenue 5, another kind of comedy. It's think of a cruise ship in space. So it's pretty good too.
Yeah, I know we're big Curb Your Enthusiasm this season with the Spite store. I feel like, are you guys going to start?
The Spite store. So good.
So you guys are in quarantine too. I guess you should tell us a little bit about your situation, because Boulder's not in like a full lockdown, but you're kind of limited. What's been happening? How's that affecting you guys? How that's like changing your day?
Yeah. We're lucky with Boulder because we can still go outside and train. The rules are, there's no limit on what you can do as long as you maintain social distancing when you're out there. But to be honest, the trails have been absolutely insanely packed. So right. I'm actually starting to just run more on the roads so I can kind of avoid people. And then, we have a great setup at the house. We have our training room has, 2 trainers and treadmills, and Rinny is partnered with Master Spa. So we have the swim spa in our backyard right now. So we're pretty self-sufficient.
Yeah, I think everyone's really jealous of the guys who have swim spas right now. So
yeah, and we our street, everybody, it's like a big area for people walking, and the trails are right in front of our house, and everybody's always kind of staring. Someone asked if we would rent space.
Oh no!
Someone wanted to rent some lane time.
And you're not like financially there yet. You're like, no.
Right. Yeah. If this thing goes on too long, we might have to do that.
So how has it been dealing with kind of like the stress of that? Because essentially you guys are off work almost right now. Like you don't have a job right now, but you kind of still, but you're busier than ever. How are you dealing with the stress of that, with the uncertainty? What's getting you through it?
Yeah, it's crazy because been super busy. Just with, all of our partners are really relying on social content right now. And then, tripping over power cords doesn't help with getting media requests. So our training has we've absolutely toned down our training. Right now, we've just almost gone back into more of a base training because there is a lot of stress around everything, financially and, just, we're older athletes too, right? So every year counts at this point. So, we're trying to keep the immune system strong. I think that's very important, how you're eating, making sure you're sleeping, not overtraining, and then just dealing with the stress of the whole world situation right now. So, but it's been nice because we've been home more, to be honest, and Izzy loves it. She doesn't know what's going on. All she knows is mom and dad they're hanging around a lot more. So, and that, that's also, you want to kind of enjoy that a little bit too. So yeah, we're in great spirits. All of our big races are other than Kona right now, kind of either been postponed or canceled. So, in that respect, it's been a little disappointing, but we have our health and we're here as a family. So those are the two important things.
So right now you're kind of just waiting to see what races come back. What is baseline training for you? Whenever the pros say that, I'm like, is that 20 hours a week? What does that mean?
Yeah, I'd say, maybe 20. We're riding indoors a lot too, which is much more efficient with your time.
Right.
And then honestly, I'm not swimming as much too. The master spa is awesome, but we're just really focusing on biking and running, and I'm actually doing quite a bit of like short efforts with my running, working on my neuromuscular training and my leg speed and my form. And then on the bike, no crazy long rides. We're in pretty good shape, so we don't need to go to like coming off a Christmas break base training. The volume's okay. It's just keeping things turned over.
Okay. And then you'll like ramp it back up once we hear something about where things are going, basically.
Yeah. And in all honesty, what we do, right? Mass participation sports are probably going to be one of the last things to come back, right?
Yeah.
It's just something that probably would scare a lot of people to get in big groups right away. So, I imagine even once, lockdowns end and people go back to work, there's still going to be some lag time before mass participation events get put back on.
Oh, for sure. I've been thinking that more and more lately. Like, it may be a while. What do you think? This is now just because you've been in the sport for a long time, and you're very involved with the PTO and other pros. And I've been thinking about long term, how does the sport change or adapt to this? Like, do you think we survive this? How, if it goes on too long, I don't know what will happen.
Yeah, well, you're seeing a lot of the virtual stuff get more popularity. I think the number of I read something with all the Garmin files that the indoor training has gone up 64% or something.
Yeah, I saw that study yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're going to find creative ways for online racing, and I think honestly, there might be a focus more on local grassroots races. Okay. Maybe more so than there used to be, just because people may be reluctant to travel. There may be international travel restrictions still once everything gets back online, right? I know Australia is talking about a 6-month, closure of their international border. So, maybe we're just going to see more local 5Ks and maybe local sprint triathlons, things like that. And I don't think that's a bad thing by any means. I think those are all great mechanisms to get people into long course racing.
Yeah, Sara Gross said something similar when I kind of was talking to her about it. Maybe we go back to the grassroots, the like random stuff people do, the just adventure-y type things.
Right.
Yeah. You guys spend half the year or some of the year in Australia usually, right?
We do. Yeah. We usually spend January through March there. We went over early this year. Rinny wanted to do Christmas with her family. And it was a lot of fun. It was the first time I've done Christmas down under. So
what is that like? It's like summer there, right?
It's barbecue. Yeah. We actually had a huge rainstorm. So, but yeah, we had a big barbecue with her family. She's one of 6. So, it's a big crew, but, yeah, so we went a little earlier this year, and I was actually thinking about that today. It might've been hard to get back if we had gone a normal schedule coming back at the end of March. So, kind of lucky that we got back at the end of January.
How does that work? I've always been curious about these pros who have like multiple homes or spend like half the year one place. Do you just stay with family there, or do you have like many houses and?
Yeah. Well, we get on the private jet and fly. No, we just do Airbnb or VRBO when we get there. we'll spend a couple weeks with Rinny's family lives in Brisbane, and we like to train in Noosa on the Sunshine Coast, which is about 90 minutes, 2 hours north of Brisbane. So we'll get there. Luckily, Rinny's mom has a big pickup truck, or a ute as they call them down under, and she'll pick us up with all of our gear. We'll hang out in Brisbane for a week or two, and then we'll just rent a place up in Noosa.
And you just bring Izzy with you on all this, right? Like it's just a whole thing.
Yeah. Izzy, you should see her passport. It's insane. There's so many stamps. I think she's been to Australia 4 or 5 times already. Hawaii 3 times, I think. So she's an international traveler.
Yeah, I was thinking about some of these pro athletes' kids. Like they just are used to anything. They go all over the world.
Yeah. I think it's great because they just, we're not disrupting them because it's their norm, right?
Right.
That's all she knows is the traveling and the running around. And she just adapts really well. I think it's going to be good for her down the line.
Well, eventually she'll have to go to school, right? And then you'll have to.
Yeah. And we see that with like some of the like Chris Lee or Craig Alexander. We've seen that as their kids got older, their travel schedule definitely changed with school.
Right. I actually was thinking, I've never heard, and I'm sure like the Slow Twitch forum people know this story, but I've never heard how you and Rinny met. How did you guys meet, and just through triathlon, or is there a story here?
We actually met, and we met a couple times casually, but we never really like connected. Rinny doesn't remember. One of them was in Buffalo Springs, the 70.3 in Texas. Yeah. Buffalo Lake Springs, maybe. We met in the med tent. She doesn't remember that one, but we officially met in St. Croix in 2009 at the pre-race. They had one of the homestays. All the pros stayed in one neighborhood, and one of the homestays had a pasta dinner for everybody, and I had a big kind of chocolate fudge brownie, and everybody stared at me like I was crazy the night before a race. And then the next morning I went on. Won the race. It was the first 70.3 I'd ever won. Rinny had a massive lead, and she balked and ended up second. So at the after party, I kind of said, you should have had one of those brownies. You wouldn't have balked. Yeah. And we kind of kicked it off from there.
All right. So that was like your opening line here.
That was my opening line. And then she Facebook friended me, and then I just let her sit. I just let her sizzle for a little bit. And luckily, I didn't wait too long. She didn't lose interest, but I might have waited a little too long. But she still went on our first date. So
that's really funny. How do you guys balance like your relationship? Because a lot of times, I mean, we get a lot of questions about this from our readers, from age group athletes. And for them, it's usually like one person's really into it and the other person isn't into triathlon. But you guys both maintain like a really competitive schedule, like training, racing. Do you have any advice for people? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways it's good that we both know what the other is going through and the demands of the sport. I think if, sometimes it can be hard if the spouse doesn't relate. But we definitely find it easier when we're kind of maybe have some separate races. But now that Izzy's here, we don't really want to do that. We want to travel together. So, we kind of have to, manage that a little bit. And then obviously Kona every year we have to manage, and it just comes down to, having the right support around us that can support both of us, because, a lot of times you can't lean on the other, particularly like race week in Hawaii.
Right.
And so you just have to be prepared. A little forward thinking, I think, helps prevent a lot of problems before they come.
So do you guys like sit down then and decide these are the races we're going to do? And then you bring I'm assuming you bring a babysitter or a nanny or a family member with you then, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, we have a live-in nanny, Ashley, who's been awesome. She's actually been with us, sort of third year with us. So to have that kind of consistency with Izzy, it's been pretty nice. And that first year, 2018, when we really started traveling with Izzy, we did almost the exact same schedule, and it was a lot of fun. Last year, I had a ton of injuries and sickness, which kind of made our schedules go like this, and go apart, which for me, it made it a lot harder. And Rinny had to do a lot of races by herself. So she would bring Izzy and Ashley with her. And she had great races, so I guess she didn't need me there. Maybe I was a liability.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's mixed, right? When you go to a race with a lot of people or not, like sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's like, oh, this is a lot of stuff. So.
Yeah.
And you guys have the same coach now too, right? Because I feel like the last time, a few years ago when I talked to Rinny before Kona, it was like, no, we have different coaches. We do like different things. We have like totally different setups before Kona. And now you guys have like the same coach. You're like merging, you're converging.
Yeah. No, it's funny because we joke about that too. We've always had a hard line on that, right? It's like, okay, no, like that's the business side. Like you don't mix that, and sometimes you got to go with the flow. And we're so close with Julie on a friend level, and Rinny was doing some swimming with us last year, just because Siri's kind of had stepped back from the day-to-day swim workouts for her squad. So Rinny had kind of been in the program a little bit, and then she just came on board fully, and it's been a lot of fun.
So to be clear, she came on board with Julie Dibbins now and is part of that whole crew.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the JD crew.
The JD crew. She's hashtagging it. She also said on our Facebook Live last week, because she used to be a pretty strict, like, no wine for like 2 months before Kona, but now she's like, relax that, because you were not like going to do that. You were like, no, I will drink wine.
It's funny, like, yeah, this is a while back now, like when I first started getting into Hawaii, she got me to go on that program, and then I started relaxing it a week or two every year. So we're probably at, like, when we go to Kansas now, we train in Lawrence, Kansas before Kona. Kind of when we go to there, we stop drinking wine.
Okay.
And yeah. So, but who knows? This year we might not. I don't know.
You haven't decided yet. You're like, you got to wait and see how things go. Because I think right now you should not be cutting back on wine. Right now.
Oh no, yeah, the consumption has skyrocketed actually, and my shirts and my pants are getting a little too tight.
You're like, ooh, that's
yeah. Maybe I do need to train more.
So you started triathlon at the Naval Academy, right? Because you were like a swimmer before that in high school. We have a lot of non-US listeners who obviously don't even, like, the concept of the Naval Academy is kind of weird. And even for US listeners, like, the concept of the academies are kind of weird. Like, I never really know what happens there. So what exactly is it like going to an academy? What does triathlon mean at an academy? I feel like you just kind of are doing it 24/7, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's I actually had a chance to chat with the academy triathlon team last week, which was a lot of fun. Catch up with this kind of younger generation. I guess I graduated there 2003, so it's been a while. But it's full on. I mean, your days are booked. Your mandatory formations in the morning, mandatory formations at lunch, mandatory meals, drill practice and parades and marching. And then obviously your academics and your sports and things like that. So you definitely keep pretty busy. I don't remember a lot of sleep when I was at the academy, but the tri team, it's awesome. I mean, they're definitely one of the best collegiate club teams in the country. Yeah. I like to, my groups, my crew, when we were at the academy, I feel like we really stepped it up. And, the men's team won 2 collegiate national championships my junior and senior year. But it takes, it's a place where structure and discipline are kind of, already there. So it makes sense to, put that mindset into triathlon because it is a sport that's so demanding. And I think that's why you see a lot of connection between the military and triathlon.
For sure. What made you want to go to an academy? Because it sounded too intense for me, for sure.
Yeah, I actually didn't really think I wanted to go to an academy. My older brother Thomas, who was a senior my freshman year, was super into it. He always wanted. I mean, I remember him when he was a little kid, he had Navy sweatshirts, and I went to visit him when I was still in high school, and I just really appreciated what was going on there. I appreciated knowing that everybody was there for something more than just an education. They were there to serve and to give back to our country. So it just felt like the purpose there was so meaningful and so strong. It kind of drew me in. It was something that I wanted to be part of.
And then you technically kind of were then competing as a triathlete for Navy. So you went to Berkeley to do your grad, which was actually before my time. But I guess you were on the tri team when my husband was there because he's still like, you're the only male pro triathlete he like still follows or cares about. So But you came to UC Berkeley, but you competed for Navy because that was like officially your assignment. Like that was your assignment. How does that work? Like you're competing as a triathlete as your naval assignment. Is that right?
Yeah. So no, actually, so when I went to Cal, I had the craziest Navy career ever, by the way. I mean, my older brother Thomas is still in the Navy. He just made captain or 06 officer level. He's a real deal. He's he's Mr. Navy, and I just ended up being the complete opposite.
You're like, no.
But right, yeah. So they had a program at the academy. It was called the Immediate Graduate Education Program, and if you were basically in like the top 50 in the class academically, and you received a scholarship from one of the accepted universities, then you could go and get your master's. Oh, and okay. You were already commissioned an officer. So at that time I was an ensign, and I qualified. I studied ocean engineering, and I got accepted to Cal. And so my first 2 years as an officer were actually at Cal Berkeley. But for the record, I was definitely part of the Cal team, but I refused to race.
Right. That's what the thing was.
My senior year, I got beat by a professional, Eric Bean from Stanford. And he was like already finished school and was just training full time as a professional to win collegiate nationals. Right. And I'm like, this is bogus. Like my schedule at the academy, and I got this guy's like in a van training on the race course for 3 months. So when I got to Cal, I'm like, I love the team there was awesome. They met so many great people. I want to be a part of this, but I just can't race. I can't go to collegiate nationals and Eric Bean somebody.
Okay, because I was wondering, because there was always a thing. It was always like, oh yeah, but he doesn't race for us. And I was like, so you kind of plugged away for a long time then. For Navy, you won like a bunch of I forget what the official term is, but like the military national championship.
Yeah, the Armed Forces national championships. Yep.
Right. And so you kind of just like kept, plugging away as a pro. When do you feel like, if you were going to say this is the time, when do you feel like you made it as a pro?
It definitely was not in my ITU short course career. That's for sure. I was a schlep on the ITU course. I think my best result was World Cup in Israel. I got 11th. I didn't even get top 10. It was in like December, like when everybody else has done their season, and I still couldn't get a top 10. It took a while for my running to come around. So yeah, when I was in the Navy racing for the Navy, and obviously was focused on trying to make the Olympic team in 2008, and I went to Olympic trials and actually got stuck in my wetsuit in T1.
Oh, is this why you didn't make the Olympics?
Right now,
get your wetsuit off?
I'm not saying I would have run fast enough to make the team, but I was in the break with, I think it was Hunter and Andy, maybe somebody else. And I was in Matt Reed, maybe. I was in that small group, and, that's where you had to be. Like, everybody that made the team came from that group. And I was with them out of the water, got stuck in my wetsuit, and then that was it. But
oh, man.
So, yeah, but my running really came along, and at the time I was working with Cliff English, and when I moved to Boulder in 2009, we just started like running. So my running came along in 2009 and 2010, and actually, I was on the podium at U.S. Nationals and ITU, and Pan Am Championships as well in 2009 and 10, kind of that time frame. So my running, I think I was actually, considered, a legitimate contender for a U.S. spot for the Olympics. But at that, I was also really coming into my own with long course racing. Okay. And I think that breakout was definitely 2009 St. Croix.
Oh, okay.
So I started to get confidence in my running.
Okay.
The brownie, yeah.
Okay.
So I did. I went to New Orleans earlier that year, my first 70.3. And I got out of the Navy at the end of 2008. And I'm like, okay, I got this much money saved up. I'm going to go move to Boulder. I can race for a year and a half, and I can try to make it, baptism by fire, either do it or go get a job. And that's when things, started to click. But my first 70.3, I was in really good shape. And I lost all my gels, all flew off my bike at the right out of transition. And I'm like, and I had a horrible ride, and I'm like, man, like I just need to get a job. Like I'm not cut out for this. And I'm like, you know what, forget it. Just try to have a really good run. Have like focus on what you can do right now. You can have a really good run, and you can take something away from this race, right? So I ended up having the fastest run split of the day and ran myself back onto the podium. And that's when I'm like, okay, maybe I can do this.
Maybe I don't need to get a job. Okay.
Right. Maybe I can wait for that job a little bit. And then, a couple of weeks later or 2 months later, or whatever it was, I went to St. Croix and won the race on the run, and subsequently broke Craig Alexander's course record. So that gave me so much confidence. And from there on, confidence is very important. Once I really believed that I could do it, I had seen my ability in training, but it hadn't translated into racing yet because I didn't believe in it. But those 2 races really made me believe in myself.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I definitely have had the same, like, oh, forget this. I go do something easier. Go get a real job. And so it's interesting to hear that you had those thoughts, but then you worked through them and came out the other side. Okay. What job would you have gotten? What job?
I don't know. I was actually looking at Apple. I was looking to apply to get an MBA.
Just keep going.
I actually wanted to go to Cal. I couldn't figure it out. I was trying to figure out a way that I could go and not do the engineering program, but do an MBA. And I couldn't figure it out. But I would take night classes at their business school, just because it was so much more interesting to me than necessarily engineering. I don't think I'll be a practicing engineer at any point in this lifetime.
But you might be business expertise is what we should be looking for.
Yep. I think the entrepreneurial spirit goes hand in hand with being a professional triathlete. That's for sure. Because there is definitely a lot of risk.
Yeah. And then, and so I think what a lot of people probably want to know about, and what was a pretty big deal for you was kind of the second place at Kona last year. And I think what was really interesting for a lot of us was you were so hurt throughout the year. Like, you were kind of off the radar, you'd been injured, and then you just came, and delivered. And so I'm curious, how much were you like, knew you could do it and holding those cards like close to your chest, like, oh, I'm hurt, guys? And how much did it just kind of end up surprising you?
I was definitely I kept a low profile. I didn't actually know I was even going to be able to race, honestly, until 2 weeks before. I had not run outside until, I think it was less than 2 weeks before Kona. I had not run outside.
Okay.
But I was doing these amazing sessions on the Alter G, like weight reduce. And I'm like, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I think I might be onto something. Like, this might be my key, and I was able to kind of, obviously you have to work with the hand you're dealt, right? I broke my foot 7 weeks before Kona. I couldn't run outside. Took me a couple weeks even to get on the Alter G. But I knew my cycling was way better than in years past because I wasn't able to run. And it's all about, energy, and, if you can't really necessarily focus all on your riding and you're running at the same time, it's a pretty taxing on the body. So I knew that the cycling focus was going to put me in a good position, and that the work I was doing on the Alter G was really good. So I had this weird self-confidence that I should not have had. Like, honestly, I really did not think I was going to race 2 weeks before Kona. And, but I didn't say anything about that. I just took the pressure off myself. And, I know Greg Bennett, is a good buddy of mine. I think he did some commentary for Ironman, and he told, and I did not tell Greg this, but I think he told Sebi and Jan that I wasn't even putting my running shoes in T2. So I think Sebi, like, when he got across the line, he's like, what the heck? I thought you weren't even going to run. I'm like, dude, I never said that.
He's like, wait, what?
Yeah, he's like, wait, what? Come on, guy.
It seems like it ended up working, right? Did you like secretly stumble on a secret sauce here where you actually ended up being more rested and more ready to go?
Yeah, and I think that's 100% true. I mean, everybody wants to go in knowing they've done all this work, and then you can take a lot of confidence from the work you've done. But at the end of the day, fitness is not performance, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the more fitness you get doesn't mean your performance is going to get better. You have to figure out what the fitness you need for the best performance. And I think this whole experiment, which really is what it was, proved to me that, you can be smarter and really race well.
Did you change anything then coming out? Are you like, oh man, let's relook at my taper plan? Like,
we will definitely. It's kind of a bummer. We were hoping to experiment a little bit more in July before Roth. But that's been canceled, so we're gonna have to figure out before Kona. but I definitely think I'll do another strong cycling focus and then, do some weight assisted running.
I was also talking to Ben Hoffman a week or so ago, and he said, it's the second place curse. Like you come in and you're like, oh, I have to win now. And you just blow yourself up. And do you feel like you have to win now? Is that kind of...
I've already gone through that with when I was on the podium in 15.
Right.
And, I've worked with Mark Allen in the past too. And he always says that he's like, it's such a hard position because, that second through fourth. And if you look at historically for the men's race, I think since 2005, the winner almost always comes from second through fourth. Mm-hmm. You have this weird, either you get so confident because you were so close that you're like, I got this, I'm going to win. And then you have a horrible race, or you panic and like, I need to do more. Like I'm so close. If I do more, I'm going to get over the line. So definitely have that in the back of my mind. Yeah. And honestly, I think the whole situation in the world right now that's keeping us from racing is going to kind of put everybody on my plan last year. Everybody's resting right now. So it could be an amazingly fast Kona this year if it happens.
I've been wondering that if like now that all these races are September, October, if it's just going to like everyone's going to come out super fit, super rested, and it's just going to be crazy.
Yeah, we'll I think it's going to go two ways. I think people are either going to just keep training and put themselves in a hole, right, or you're going to be like me and probably put on a couple extra pounds and then, turn it around at the end of the year.
You mentioned early on with this whole like quarantine thing too, obviously you and Rinny are both like later in your career. So it does like add kind of an extra pressure. You've done doing this for so long. How do you keep it interesting year after year? Like not make it a grind? Like what makes you want to keep coming back?
Yeah. I think no matter what you do, it's going to be a grind at some points, and you just have to accept that, it's your job, and it's still better than any other option I can think of how I want to spend my time working, at least. And yeah, you have to, every year I kind of think of a couple things I can do differently to become a better athlete.
Okay.
And I think if you get stuck in the mindset that you have to train harder and train more every year to become a better athlete, you're not going to make it, long in your career. It may be very, very, very successful, but I think if you want to have a long career, and I've learned a lot from Rinny too about, having a sustainable career, you just have to be creative and think about different ways to become a better athlete. And that's what I've honestly been focusing on these last two and a half years, is becoming a more efficient athlete. The training I do is much different than I did when I was younger, yet I think I'm faster and stronger than I've ever been. And I think that comes from changing that mindset and looking for ways to become a smarter, more efficient athlete.
What kind of things should people think about becoming what makes you a more efficient athlete?
For me, bike position is huge.
Oh, okay.
And being able to work on holding bike position. Anybody can look good for a photo, right? And get super tucked and
right.
Or look good in the wind tunnel, but it's how do you manage that over 180K? And I think that's huge. Running for me, I've done a lot on, we have a Technogym skill mill, which is a curved treadmill.
Oh yeah. Those are
and that's
crazy.
Really helped me, my foot position, getting my foot under my body and getting that hip drive and, really activating your glute and getting that extension through the back of your stride. It's been huge. And I'm by no means saying I'm Rinny. I don't look like Rinny when I run, but if you look at how I ran in 2010 versus now, definitely look like I'm a more efficient runner and just getting more out of the energy I put into the ground.
Do you guys run together? Does she give you tips? Is this do you do any of your workouts together?
We don't. We do some aerobic stuff together. But mainly because we've always had different coaches. We do, we kind of stick to our own thing, but not too much. We'll go easy runs for sure. Like our afternoon jogs, we'll go out together. But I actually tend to run a little faster on my easy running. So she doesn't really like to run with me.
I actually have the exact same experience with my husband. So there you go. So in this whole quarantine thing, obviously you said there's a few things, you guys are adjusting, going back to kind of base training. Is there anything, what's really helping you get through this? Is there anything that you're going to keep using now, moving forward, that you've done that you're actually,
yeah,
I'm going to keep
at it? Obviously I'm lucky I'm Rinny, but, I've gotten used to training with Justin Metzler and Joe Gambles and everybody from the JD crew. So I've lost a lot of my entertainment value. So, I work with Aftershocks, and luckily their cross trainers are waterproof. So, when I'm in the master spa for an hour by myself, or, I'm out riding by myself, at least I have some entertainment with my headphones. So, that's actually been pretty good for me to kind of get through the monotony of all this training right now.
So you just record like old conversations from your training partners?
I should just Bluetooth Joe Gambles into my my Aftershocks, because he will talk the whole ride. It's amazing. I got him going about some of the shoes. Everybody's talking about shoes right now. Right. And the disparity among some shoes. And I think we got through probably almost 2 hours of a ride a couple weeks ago of him just talking about that.
Let him go. Okay.
You just let him go. It's amazing.
We will have to get him on the podcast and just let him talk about whatever he wants to talk. Okay. What's been the hardest part, you think, of all of this? The past few weeks and everything. What's the weirdest thing and the hardest thing?
It's just that surreal feeling around, you drive down to the grocery store and just everything is a little off, and just knowing, how many people are kind of struggling with unemployment and things like that, just puts this weird, so 2013 Boulder, we had a huge flood. And I remember kind of like right when the stay-at-home policy came in place, I said to Rinny, it just feels like that morning when we woke up in 2013 for the first morning of the flood, and just something not great is happening right now. So just kind of that whole just feeling, and I think people people now appreciate human interaction, right? Like we've gotten so reliant on technology now, but now you understand, hey, like I actually miss this. If this was gone, I would really, really miss this. So maybe this will help us all put our phones down in the future and just interact with people a little bit more when we're allowed to.
Yeah, I mean, people are on their phones too much right now, so I'm definitely over the Facebook. And obviously, I mean, usually I would have to say, like, what are your plans for the year? What do you have coming up? But it's like just too hard to even, like, right now your plans are just to wait and see, right? Pretty much.
Yeah. It's absolutely wait and see. And until then, we'll be doing Instagram takeovers for our partners and some base training. Tim and Rinny Show. We just launched season 1 of the Tim and Rinny Show on our YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. Wait, it's season 1? I thought.
Sorry, season 3, episode 1.
I was like, wait, what was I watching before?
Right. Yeah. Wait a minute.
And how do you guys shoot those? You just like plan them out, and Talbot comes and shoots it?
Yeah, we can get them edited. We obviously don't do any editing. It's way beyond our pay grade. I just bought a selfie stick.
Okay.
So we're obviously that's the extent of our camera capability.
Oh man, and I guess we should be looking then for the future in future years to see you starting your own businesses, your own triathlon plans after you retire. We'll see.
Yeah, we want to. Rinny and I definitely want to stay in the sport. I think how we do that, we're not quite sure yet. But yeah, it's definitely something that's always on our mind.
Yeah, and is he? Yeah. I was gonna say, is he following in your footsteps? I know we asked some question on our Facebook if who she thought was fastest, you or Rinny, and she apparently kept saying her. Izzy's fastest.
Yeah, oh yeah, she was. Yeah. No, she totally gets it now. And like when we start our runs now, she'll get on her scooter and try to race us when we start going on our runs. And she does hot laps on her scooter around the kitchen island. And like she's leaning into the turn. She's got her leg out. So I think she likes speed. So I don't know. She might be more of she may end up being a snowboarder or skateboarder or something.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think she likes that more of that adrenaline kick.
Well, so the last couple of weeks we've been doing a weird would you rather at the end with one of our guests, and I was trying to think what would be a good would you rather for you. And
my roommates at the academy, we always used to play this.
Oh, really? What were ones
Yes.
you guys played?
Oh, they were X-rated. I couldn't repeat them now. They were always inappropriate.
Okay, we will not go inappropriate. All right, well, let's go with would you rather race by yourself Oh, like for the rest of, for the rest of your life, but you win, or, you get to have Rinny and Izzy and everybody with you, but, you never win.
Never, not even once. Is there a chance of winning?
No, you never
win. There's
win.
not even a chance?
No.
Oh, man.
I know, it's tough, right? You're like, it's tough.
I don't think I could. I have to pick option A. I don't think I could go into something knowing I don't even have a chance of winning.
Right. You have to be. You're like, I have to win.
I have to have a chance to win. Yeah.
That makes sense. Otherwise, why are you a pro, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for chatting, and I'm sure we'll be looking for you, on the race course when things get started again.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and hoping all your listeners are staying healthy and in good spirits right now.
Thanks to Tim and Sara for chatting, and thanks to our editor and our entire staff at Triathlete for all their hard work. And thanks to you guys for listening. Be sure to subscribe at iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And make sure you stay safe in the coming weeks with wherever you're training.